So good morning as well as good afternoon. First of all, on behalf of Harbinger Systems, a warm welcome to all of you. My name is Anjani Kumar Shukla and I represent Harbinger Systems as General Manager Business Development, and I'll be your host for today. I'm pleased to welcome you to today's webinar on benefits of developing single-page web applications using AngularJS, and take great pleasure in announcing that we have attendees from 30+ countries joining us. And on that note, good evening to the attendees joining us from the Southern Hemisphere. Today's webinar is part of our series of webinars through which we have dwelled on the topics like best practices in responsive web design, that is RWD, building real-time collaborative web applications, 12 tips for rapid mobile application development, and many more. I'm very happy to introduce you to our speaker of the day today. My senior colleague Mahesh Kumar Kharade will be taking us through this session of around 45 minutes, followed by the Q&A. Mahesh, with over 7+ years of experience in design and development of enterprise systems across multiple domains like healthcare, retail, e-learning, and business intelligence, is our in-house web development expert. He has worked on multitude of challenging projects with technologies ranging from JavaScript frameworks, UI libraries, PHP. Mahesh also heads our Center of Excellence for Web Application Development and is very much into frameworks and has practical understanding of single-page app development, especially using AngularJS. Now, before we hear Mahesh sharing his experience and advantages of why to develop single-page application, let me tell you the reason behind choosing this particular topic of today. Our research and marketing team has come up with some critical insights on how loading time affects your bottom line. Now, loading time is a major contributing factor to page abandonment. The average user has no patience for a page that takes too long to load, and you know the reasons, and I am one of those users. If a page does not load within 3 seconds, 20% of visitors will exit the loading page and try one of your competitor's site, and 75% of visitors are less likely to return back to the site. So you can understand how critical it is to have a faster loading time. Now, this next fact is quite interesting, and it is about Walmart, which there was a survey conducted by Walmart in 2012, and they found that for every 100 milliseconds of reduced loading time, it leads to an increase in incremental revenue of as much as 1%. And you can understand, you know, the revenues we are talking about when we are talking about Walmart and what 1% can mean. Another example, and I'm sure most of you must be aware of, is about Mozilla. After Mozilla made their page 2.2 seconds quicker to load, the company saw downloads of Firefox increase by 5 million per month. So I'm sure with all these critical facts and figures, you will have the session, you will be attending it with more interest. And as you can see at the bottom of your screen, there is a graph also which shows the relation between the response time or the faster loading time versus the retention of users on that particular page. So without further ado, I hand over the presentation to Mahesh Kumar Kharade. Mahesh, over to you.
Thanks, Anjali. I think that very well covers the business scenario. So now let's jump into and see how we can achieve this. So to start with a high-level agenda, during this session, I plan to touch base upon different web application types as well as commonly used patterns in today's web development. These different approaches, I think, has its own set of limitations, which we'll take a closer look at. And then the best thing to do is to discuss how we can overcome these limitations and find a way forward. And as we try to identify a solution, that's where we take a look at these single-page applications. because I think it holds a very good answer to the questions or the issues that we are trying to solve. Then, as a part of single page application discussion, we'll cover basics. We'll try to look at key characteristics as well as major benefits out of it. It should give us better insights in how the single page application fits into different application requirements. And then we'll discuss high-level architecture of single page applications to kind of understand how single page application is doing this thing that we are doing with the traditional approaches. So as we kind of understand single page application, then we'll get into the AngularJS as a framework option to develop these single page applications. We'll then go over key features of AngularJS and how this feature set will help us implement these single page applications in better way. And then we'll in the end spend some time in discussing your questions. So let's take a look at the web applications journey so far. So if I have to categorize the web application development, I could probably do it with these 3 or 4 major types. So to start with, say call it a model 1, where we had a direct translation of the original model of the pages and links, wherein your links and pages are linked to each other in one-on-one fashion, and the dynamic content is kind of generated. Then comes in the model 2 or MVC, where it tries to separate the representation of the information from the user interaction. That's where the model consists of application data, business rules, logics, and function, and things like that. And then we have a view, which is an output of or the representation of the data. And then that's where the controller sits in between and tries to mediate the input, converting it to the commands for the model or view. So if you kind of try to compare the model 1 and model 2, you would find it is more of a separation or maybe kind of cleaning up things than changing anything at the overall application performance level. Then comes some enhancements to the MVC through the component-based approach, and the most recent one is enriched. It has been enriched with the Ajax. Now, I think in the recent years, the Ajax technique has been introduced, and this technique, with the help of JavaScript, allows the partial changes by obtaining the new data or refreshing the data from the server without reloading the complete page. And that's where the page navigation, which is one of the pain points, is kind of partially avoided in case of minor step transitions, which are performed with the help of Ajax and JavaScript. So with the introduction of this approach, I feel millions of websites and web applications started using it to kind of provide better user experience to the end users. But still there are certain issues that exist with this particular approach. And I think probably the root cause is the intensive use of Ajax and kind of results into these issues. First and foremost is a bookmarking problem, where as the Ajax can partially change the page, but the URL is still same, and that's where end users cannot save URL as a bookmark, being a kind of concrete view or a state of that particular page to come back and visit it later. Then comes in the search engine optimization issue, where any website, I mean, you want your website to be fully indexed by search engines like Google search. Now, current crawlers, I believe, see this web as a web 1.0 probably, where the JavaScript code is fully ignored, and thereby any partial changes that are kind of performed via Ajax and loaded from server are not executed and eventually not indexed by the crawlers traversing the website. Another thing is the services that are based on the page visits, like for instance advertisement services like Google AdSense or page visit monitoring such as Google Analytics. In both cases, I think the number of page load is important. That is, I think, probably the unit or a kind of a measure that is used there. And as in case of partial changes, then by Ajax, it does not count it as a new visit. So, I mean, to add to this list, I believe this particular approach relies on a fact that the state is a driving factor of the behavior. And if you kind of look at overall scope, I mean, I feel the app appearance is what changes more frequently than the logic behind. So if I have to take an example, I mean, let's take a look like 2 or 3 years back where you develop a website or a web application that supports all the web desktop browsers and it looks very nice, and then suddenly this phase shift comes in and you now need to support these multiple platforms like mobile onto the multiple form factors, different browsers. Now what you do, you have to port your website, and that's where your appearance of the website is changing or the application is changing and not the logic behind. So that's where again a limitation comes in, because you have to still rewrite everything. There is no way that you can enhance the existing implementation and just reuse the lot of work that has been put in. So if there are so many issues with this intensive use of Ajax, should we say no to it? I don't think so. I mean, that there are solutions to the problems that we have just looked at. And I think that's where this single phase application fits in very well. And I think this is the right time probably to start with this transition where we move from MVC Ajax into the single page web application development. I think we have the technology and modern browsers that are qualified to achieve this objective. And I think when we talk about this transition, the key factor that we need to consider is to kind of succeed in this new way of web development, we must be able to accomplish all the previous requisites of any website. And then whatever additional can be achieved would be definitely an advantage. So single page applications. In a nutshell, if I have to compare or identify key differences between how traditional web application works and how single page applications are implemented, I think it's mainly into how request routing and user interface rendering is handled. In all MVC or earlier approaches, probably part or most of the request handling is done on the server side. That's where the controller fits in, and server is also responsible for rendering logic in one or the other way. In short, there is considerable overlap between client and server on both these aspects. And if you look at the diagram on screen, probably you would get a feeling that that's where SPA is reducing this overlap further and putting an additional responsibility onto the client, where the client-side routing and the client-side rendering is a key rather than having that shared with the server side. Let's take a close look how it's done and how it helps in improving the application performance. So to start with a formal definition, I think I have came across multiple formal definitions of single page application approach, but I think this is the one that probably best describes it. It says these are the applications in which the majority of interactions are handled on the client without the need to reach a server. This is where we're talking about reducing the overall round trips happening between the client and server and eventually improving the performance. And there is a goal as well, which is to provide more fluid user experience. As there is less turnaround time, we'll eventually get a fluid user experience. Now, if you take a close look at the diagram, you will notice that data access layer, which usually is a part of server-side logic in the MVC or a traditional approach, is now also present on the client side. So that's where we are trying to add additional responsibility onto the client. This separation, I believe, is mainly to let server focus on serving the data through the data services it would expose based on the business logic, and let it be processed by client, the data that it is preparing, in manner it needs to be. We'll revisit this data access layer on client side in coming slides in more detail. Let's check some of the main characteristics of the single page application. Obviously, it gives you a application like interaction, back forward buttons work as expected, dynamic data loading from server side API, and it also works with RESTful web services very well. Now, this is where I think this separation of the data access layer or addition of data access layer onto the client side is helping a lot, because now if you see the one of the primary maybe a responsibility that is shared between the client and server usually was kind of combining the data and the presentation logic, kind of assembling it and then sending response back to the client. Now, this is where data access layer on the client side helps that part of it being handled on the client side. And now, if we can, and if you have a need where you need to take this application offline, you can just simply make the data service part of it available offline, and the rest of the things are already on the client side, gives you an ability to go offline very easily. Then all static resources like markups, that is HTML code, CSS, and JavaScript required for applications are sent with the initial request itself. Now, there are certain advantages because of it. We'll look at them very soon in next slide. Then the page change occur via JavaScript using templates and DOM manipulation. That's where it reduces the number of round trips to the server. And then we are using URL hashes to track the state and provide bookmarkable links. I think this is where the solution lies to one of the issues that we had with the AJAX application, is in how to achieve the bookmarking, because it starts changing the URL and associate it with every state of the application, making it easily bookmarkable. And there are many other uses, many other use cases where it helps a lot. As we discuss this characteristic, I think they gives us multiple benefits. Let's start with the core benefit, which is the performance improvement. Any web application ideally should have a fluid transitions or faster UI. I think in the introductory part we have already seen, how it helps, and this keeps the user interested as well as engaged. Now, this is where performance has become one of the key aspects of any web application, and single page applications help in performance improvements in several ways. Now, as we talked about static resources being loaded at the initial request itself, later interactions with the server are mainly for data. Now, all DOM manipulation is handled on the client side. Even dynamic HTML content is also created on the client side based on the UI logic, which is now part of the view. Also, these resources are static, so client-side caching becomes more easy and beneficial. You don't need to reload these again and again, and in a way your application, the next visit of the application has already been optimized. And as the later interactions with the server are mainly for data, there is less data transfer happening between client and server, reducing the overall I/O as well as processing on the server side. It also helps distributing server load to the clients. Now, this is an interesting fact, because in traditional approach, server is fully or partially responsible for request routing as well as assembling data and presentation logic to prepare server response. Now, this all processing is kind of moving onto the client side, is definitely going to offload significantly and eventually helping you kind of improve the performance of the server response. With that, let's look at some of the other key benefits as well. I think code reuse is one of the one that probably needs a special mention because it says that REST endpoints are general purpose, but most of the time you will observe that these REST endpoints are not utilized by the web application itself, of which they are part of, but are rather kind of developed for the utilization by external applications or applications that, or maybe by different applications that want to utilize the services by your web application, provided by your web application. Now, normally these web applications have their own set of server-side APIs serving the responses for the presentation logic that it needs. Now, I think one of the key reasons for that is there's a tight coupling between the data that we're trying to serve and the presentation logic of it. And this is where I think single page application comes in and has its own way of handling or maybe separating out the data and the presentation logic, ensuring what all you need from server is a raw data. And that's where you can now start utilizing your REST endpoints without needing to redefine same, probably same set of data through different set of server-side APIs. That's how the UI becomes just another client, and once you have this ability, you can start supporting multiple platforms because you just need to define another UI client which would take care of whatever presentation is needed based on the platform that you need to support. I think that covers most of the key benefits and usage scenarios. Just to kind of give some more reference in terms of the business usage, it gives you app-like user experience, which we have already talked about. You can use your own RESTful APIs or third-party APIs, build hybrid HTML5 applications, mobile version of your website. There are many more such scenarios where it can be applied. You just need to evaluate and check it. Let's now take a closer look at the building blocks of the single page applications through its architectural considerations. Now, before we kind of get there, let's take a look at this quote. I think some of you might have already read it. I think this describes this SPA approach very well. It says the secret to building large apps is never build large apps. So this is a common mistake that most of us get into. And how to do it? It says break your applications into small pieces and then assemble those testable bite-sized pieces into your big application. Now, being that said, let's check how it is there through the building blocks that single page applications have. If you, now if you look at this diagram, it probably gives a more clear picture in terms of the responsibilities that are there on the client side and on the server side. Now, this is how now server becomes a kind of a source of the data through set of APIs, and everything everything is handled on the client side. You have model, controller, your view model, data store moving on to the client side, and then the presentation logic handled through this template, declarative UI, DOM APIs, and a local storage. You have your routers going on to the client side, taking care of most of the request routing, that part of it, and this is where you load your HTML and other assets at the load. As a part of the first request. And then based on the data that is needed, it can be fetched over later using AJAX. And in addition to normal stack, you need to have API endpoints that would probably help you get this done. And with that, now I think it's, as we have gone through some of the basics of the single page applications and got to know how they are done, I think this is the time to get into AngularJS kind of to check how it's an option to implement single page application. In next set of slides, I'll touch base upon main features of AngularJS, how it works, key components, and how it's one of the best options for the single page applications. So let's start with the key features of AngularJS. So we have a declarative HTML approach, easy data binding by means of two-way data binding. Then we have reusable components, MVVM design pattern, dependency injection is another key aspect, and the unit testing part of it, routing, templating. Some of these I'll be discussing shortly in detail as in being an advantage of the AngularJS. But let's see how exactly or what is the basic principle on which AngularJS works. And this is where this HTML compiler comes into picture. It probably is the key component of Angular, where this Angular HTML compiler allows developers to teach a browser new HTML syntax. In one of the key features, we talked about a declarative HTML approach. So this is where it helps developer in teaching browser new HTML syntax. The compiler allows you to attach behavior to any HTML element or an attribute, and even create a new HTML element or an attribute with custom behavior. In Angular terms, it is referred as directives, which will look in more detail as we go forward. This compiler is an Angular service which traverses the DOM looking for attributes. The compilation process happens in two phases, where first step is compile and second one is linking. In compile step, it traverses the DOM and collects all the directives. The result is a linking function here. Now in link, it combines directive with a scope and produces a live view. Then this is where the two-way data binding comes into picture, where any change in the scope model are reflected in the view, and any user interactions with the view are reflected in the scope model. This makes the scope model as a single source of truth, and it takes out an overall override of registering callback handlers and other things. So now, as we are getting to know AngularJS, I mean, a question that can come to mind is it a library or is it a framework, or what exactly it is? So if we have to look at a library on high level, probably library is something that gives you a passive functionality, is invoked by the application. Frameworks are probably something that provides application architecture, handles common requirements, invoke application code, and many more things. So I think AngularJS comes to very, it's closer to a framework than being a library, because it helps you in kind of defining your application architecture. Some of the common requirements are already handled by the AngularJS. You don't need to kind of write that again, and then this is where it invokes your application logic. Then one of the key features that I talked about is it does all this in using MVC or MVVM. And how it is done is something that is there through this diagram. So Vue is mainly now responsible for the user interface, UI logic, and kind of interacting with the Vue model. Vue model is responsible for presentation logic, state changes, and observing these mutations and notifying Vue back. So this is where this two-way data binding happening. And then we have a controller now coming on to the client side, where now it is there to define application behavior as well as mapping these user actions to the model and resulting into the changes to the view that user is trying to look at. With that, let's get into the key components of an Angular application. When you are doing you're developing your application using Angular, what all things would help you, or what are the key components that you need to know. Dependency injection, we'll be discussing it in detail. We have directives, which is as as well as it will or they will handle in
we received a couple of messages saying that the audio is lost. Now again I'm checking. Are we audible now? If you can hear our voice, please type yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mahesh, you can please continue.
Thanks. So, I think the directives takes you a step closer to kind of creating this domain-specific markup. All they handle is creating the page content and structure of the elements using the data that you are providing for. I think AngularJS provides more than 50 directives. That's where it gives an additional advantage where you are getting most of the common requirements handled already by AngularJS. Then some of the filters, these are usable operations in which you can modify the content that is shown on the page. Some of the examples are like you want to have an ability to change the text value to uppercase, filter search results, date formatting, or currency formatting, and things like that. Some more templates probably, it is the static DOM, which is kind of a combination of HTML, CSS, and Angular specific elements or Angular specific element attributes. The Angular element and attributes direct Angular to kind of add behavior and transform the template DOM into the dynamic view. Data binding and testing I'll be covering very shortly. So as I said, I mean, let's take a closer look at dependency injection and what are the how it kind of makes AngularJS one of the kind of how it makes itself as in one of the key component of AngularJS. So dependency injection, I think, is a software design pattern that deals with how code gets hold of its dependencies. So if we have to kind of understand how exactly the dependency injection happens, let's understand what are the ways an object or function can get a hold of its dependencies. And the dependencies can be looked up. So I think the first option is where you kind of create those dependencies, typically using new operator. Second option is you kind of look up for those dependencies by means of global variables. And the third option is that you pass those dependencies wherever they are needed. With the first two options, where you are either create or looking it up, probably are not optimal because I believe they are hard-code they kind of hard-code the dependency. This also makes it difficult, I think if not impossible, to modify the dependencies. This is especially problematic in testing, as well as where it often desirable to provide mock dependencies for test isolation. Now the third option probably is the most viable one, where it removes the responsibility of locating the dependency from the component. Now the dependency is simply handed over to the component with this approach. To manage the responsibility of dependency creation, each Angular application has an indicator, rather has an injector. The injector is a service locator that is responsible for construction and lookup of dependencies. So what is an advantage here? I think that's where any component which does not fit your needs can easily be replaced. So where this is how you get a flexibility, as in to try out things and see if it fits your need. If not, then just simply replace it. Or if in the long run something gets outdated, then you can easily replace it with this approach. Let's get into the second key component or the aspect of the AngularJS, where it is two-way data binding. I think this AngularJS is based on the templating, and if you look at the most of the other templating systems, they consume static string template and combine it with data. Now, This resulting text is then in kind of inner HTML into an element, and this means that any change to the data need to be remerged with the template and then in the inner HTML into the DOM. And there are certain issues with this approach, like reading user input and merging it with data, managing the whole update process, lack of behavioral expressiveness, and many more things. And this is where AngularJS solves it by using the two-way data binding. The two-way is basically where view is updated automatically when model is changed, and model is updated automatically when a value is in the view has changed. So you don't need to do these DOM manipulations or any registering event handlers and callbacks and things like that. It is all taken care of by Angular for you. As we discuss these key components and their usage, now I think it's time to look at how or why this helps in single-page application implementation. So I think most frameworks deal with HTML shortcoming by either abstracting away HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, or by providing an imperative way for manipulating the DOM. Neither of these addresses the root problem, which is basically HTML was not designed for dynamic views. And that's where I think Angular comes in and tries to answer by where it kind of is, it extends and adapts HTML vocabulary with some additional declarations that are useful for web applications. AngularJS lets you extend HTML vocabulary for your application, which results into an environment that is extraordinary, expressive, readable, and quick to develop. Also, I think unlike other frameworks, there is no need to kind of inherit from proprietary types. To wrap the model or to wrap the model into the accessors method. You're just plain old JavaScript here that makes your code easy to test, maintain, reuse, and again, it's free from the boilerplate. Another advantage or why to use AngularJS is the separation of concerns. Now, this is again I think is a huge advantage because by means of data binding, where data binding is an automatic way of updating the view whenever the model changes, and as well as updating the model whenever the view changes. This is awesome because it eliminates DOM manipulations from the list of things you have to worry about. And then comes in controllers, where controllers are the behavior behind the DOM, wherein I think is the controllers is the behavior behind the DOM elements, where Angular lets you express the behavior in clean, readable form without the casual or without the usual approach that you use for DOM manipulation. Extensibility, AngularJS is a tool or for kind of building the framework most suited to your application development, and it is fully extensible and works very well with other libraries. Every feature can be modified or replaced to suit your unique development workflow and feature needs. Reusable components, I think this is where different components provided by Angular comes into picture, and it helps a lot. Like one of the example is filter. I mean, I think there are tons of top-notch filters provided by AngularJS, like date, frequency, JSON for debugging, and many things. And if you need, I mean, it's very easy to create your own filter. So these filters are very useful. They are easy to test, and is one of the great resources to kind of share across the projects. One of the most talked, or maybe one of the key advantage that comes with Angular is the testability. Common issues that we face with the JavaScript or the client-side testing is where developers often try to miss concerns by putting or by coupling the presentation and the data logic. In case of testing, also if there is a AJAX involved, then the functions or the code has to wait for the etc. dependencies and other things. And as with the DOM manipulation being part of the code or part of the business or the presentation logic, the creating the right kind of DOM is another challenge. I think this is where Angular has been developed from the ground up to be testable. It encourages behavior view separation through its MVVM approach. It comes with pre-bundled mocks and takes full advantage of the dependency injection. Dependency injection helps solve issues of object or reference mocking. And I think it also comes with end-to-end scenario runner, which eliminates the test flashiness by understanding the inner working of the AngularJS. With all these advantages, I just tried to put together some of the real-world examples for your reference here. The first link in this slide is not an Angular application, but it's a very good example of the single-page application. And I think that's all I had for today. I hope this was helpful.
Thank you so much, Mahesh, and I am sure that was helpful. That was really a great session, and thank you for sharing all the tips and tricks. I'm sure the audience too is pleased with such a rich and insightful session. Now, to the audience, we will be taking questions from the audience now. Just give us a couple of minutes as my colleagues are compiling the same. Let me remind you once again, if you have any queries, please type in the question pane. If in case due to the time constraints we are not able to cover answers in today's session, we will definitely, and I repeat, we will surely send you the answers in the Q&A document covering all the questions that are raised and the answers, the probable answers to that. So just hang on, give us a few seconds before Mahesh can go through the questions, and we can come up with the answers from Mahesh. Okay, so Mahesh, there are many questions which are coming in, but anyhow, should we take the first question? Okay, this is from Eric, and tell us more about handling of bookmarking in SPA. Okay, so maybe he's asking that he needs to understand more about the handling of bookmarking within SPA.
Okay. I'll just take you back to one of my slides just for a reference, and then I'll tell you how it is done. Okay, so on the screen, if you refer the example section, this is where the answer lies to this question. Actually, this is a trick in a way where we are trying to use a reference part of the URL. That is a hash fragment that you can see normally following the hash character. This reference part, if changed, would not reload the page. So you can change it using the window location alongside the page state that you are changing, and no reload would be performed. As the URL and the fundamental state have changed, now this is where now you can associate your every state that you are changing along with the page to this particular segment. You can use it to bookmark now, so users can end users can save this URL, and this gives them a way to kind of come back with the state info that a page would need, which would then act as a bookmark. And if I have to relate it to Angular, I think deep linking is what allows you to encode the state of the application in the URL so that it can be bookmarked and application can be restored from the URL to the same state.
Okay, I'm sure, Eric, you got the answer. For all the other participants, we will be anyhow sending you an email with these answers, so you will be getting it in your email. Okay, so this is a question from Edward, right? Okay, so Edward, I'm assuming you're asking that can you describe security aspect and how it's supported by AngularJS? So let me repeat the question. Can you describe security aspect for SPA and how it's supported by AngularJS?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say, because I didn't cover anything about the security, and it's good that you raised this point. I think all security considerations of the modern web applications are applicable as it is to the single page applications as well. There is nothing to kind of differentiate. Advantage, I believe, here is with AngularJS, because it provides built-in protection from basic security holes like cross-site scripting and HTML injection attacks and things like that. Also, Angular was designed to be compatible with other security measures like content security policy, as well as SSL and server-side authentication and authorization, which I think reduces the possible attack vectors, and other consideration that you would apply to modern day applications is you can still handle through the other layers that would you put on top of the on your server side or on the client side. I hope that answers the question.
Even I am assuming that answers the question. So this is my question to the audience. We have a lot more questions coming in, but as I can see from my organization team, we are just having 1 more minute to go. So if you are okay and if you want us to take more answers or more questions and answer them here, please let us know your response so that we can continue. Otherwise, we can wrap it up here. We will answer all the questions raised by you. Especially Nihal is asking, Aykut has asked questions. Lar Drolet, sorry if I have pronounced the name wrong. Sophie, your question is also we have noted. So all these questions, if you want us to continue, please type in your response in the chat window so that we can take a call, or else we will try to wind it up now and then we can continue. Okay, so we are seeing quite a few yes which are coming in. Okay, so what we can do is maybe we can take 1 more question, and then we will try to answer the remaining ones in our email. So can I start using Angular in my already developed application? If yes, how can I do that?
Okay. I think the background probably here is, the way I understand is, where someone is trying to use this Angular approach with the pages that already exist, or with the web applications that are already in place. And I think this is a very valid scenario, because not all of us would start with our web application starting tomorrow and then take a call that we want to use Angular. And I think that's where AngularJS fits in very well. It works very well with the other technologies. I mean, I would say add as much or as little of AngularJS to an existing page or an application as you like, because AngularJS has no global states that so you can have multiple apps running on the single page. So that's where you can start adding Angular for new changes and rewrite existing page in a way, in Angular way later.
Okay, so Mahesh, I'm sorry, but we'll have to stop here, and especially apologize to Nihal, Sophie, Lar, but let me assure you that we will get back to you with the answers.